On December 18, 2018, the world stood still in shock as Tynesha Hammond, a young, vibrant woman, was shot dead while on her Facebook Live. Tynesha, a doting mother to a son not even old enough to walk, was simply a victim of being at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person. The actual target of the shooting was her cousin. While her death may seem like a senseless random tragedy at the surface level, it was the conclusion to decades of generational trauma, gang violence, loss, and a questionable judicial system. To understand why this young woman had to lose her life senselessly, we must take a trip back in time to Tynesha's aunt, Bridget Flowers. Tynesha and Bridget Flowers had a relationship I imagine any kid would want to have with their aunt. From Bridget's corny Facebook posts about her niece, to Tynesha getting embarrassed in the comments section, they were a perfectly imperfect pair. As you can see in these Facebook posts of Bridget posting a picture of Tynesha and Tynesha feeling that the picture is ugly, both were very close. Also, Bridget had two sons, Jason and Jamon Jackson, cousins of Tynesha, who she also openly posted about. Bridget was always loud about who she loved on her Facebook, and if you went through her page, you would see posts like this: God, my kids, my hubby, then me, in that order. However, Bridget's large capacity for love and affection was sometimes given to the wrong person, and the wrong person here was her hubby. She would write messages such as, I miss my husband, feeling some type of way this morning, but he would be her undoing. Jacinto Flowers, Bridget's husband, was not the father of Jamon and Jason Jackson. He was not the father to any of her kids, but he was the only father figure they had known all their life. This would have been a cute story of the father that stepped up if Jacinto Jackson didn't turn out to be such a terrible person. A deeply jealous man and a wife beater, a drug dealer who had been in and out of prison 18 times, Jacinto was the poster boy of all things not to have in a husband, let alone a father. But still, Bridget stood by her man, devoting herself to him despite being at the receiving end of all his tantrums and even getting beaten at times. However, there's always a tipping point for everything because their marriage broke off and Bridget and Jacinto went their separate ways. But ask yourself, has going their separate ways ever stopped crazy exes from leaving their partners? Well, you guessed it, Jacinto didn't leave Bridget alone. As a matter of fact, he did everything in his power to make Bridget's life a living hell. Jacinto sent Bridget multiple death threats, threatening to kill himself after killing her. And on February 14th, 2014, those threats came to life. Bridget had been shopping and minding her business when Jacinto came to her and hit her so hard she lost consciousness. What's so crazy is that this happened in broad daylight, in front of CCTV cameras, and full view of everyone at the store, but Jacinto didn't seem to care. Luckily, the police caught wind of the altercations and arrested him. But then these people did the most unspeakable thing, releasing this erratic and violent man just a week after being behind bars. Didn't anyone in the police know that this was not going to end well for Bridget or essentially anyone? Didn't anyone question why a man who hit his wife in broad daylight and had a history with the law was being released after just 1 week? For this, words fail me because Jacinto's early release would create a domino effect that would start with the death of Bridget Flowers and end with the death of Tynesha Hammond.
He shot him.
Did it hit anyone? Where was she at when she was shot?
On February 22nd, 2014, Bridget, her sister, her daughter, and her friend went to buy alcohol after leaving a cookout at her house.
How close was Jacinto? Where were you in the car? Were you behind the passenger seat or the driver's seat?
Before Bridget returned to the cookout, she went to Trinity Place to drop off her friend. In the driveway, her friend began arguing with her boyfriend. Jacinto, who was close by, walked up to them and asked what the problem was. Then, for whatever reason, he took 2 steps back, pointed his gun at Bridget's face, and shot her. She died instantly. Jacinto was arrested, charged, and found guilty. He got a sentence of life imprisonment, but showed no remorse for his action, going so far as to give a cocky smirk to Bridget's family. And though the law took its course, it was a bittersweet victory as the deed had been done, and Bridget's little twin sons and her other children had been left without a mother. After Bridget died, her sons moved in with their grandmother, the same household Tynesha lived in. Now, I can't speak to how Jason and Jamon coped with their mother's death, but their choices paint a narrative clearer than any I can give to you. First, Jason and Jamon joined gangs and got into altercations with rival gangs. However, a fight at Northeast High School would begin a cycle of resentment, revenge, and, honestly, just plain juvenile stupidity. First off, Jason and Jamon's main rival was Kendrick Davis, a 16-year-old boy who was part of a rival gang. It all started when Jamon said Kendrick and his gang were live streaming on Facebook, bragging about firing at the houses of Jamon's friends, thus officially kickstarting their beef. Jamon called on his friends and cousins to confront Kendrick, while Kendrick and his gang were ready for whatever Jamon brought. To settle the beef, both gangs decided to meet one day after school to fight. This absolutely silly but extremely dangerous altercation escalated from a fight with sticks, stones, and fists to one with guns. The fight ended with someone being shot, Kendrick Davis, another victim of senseless killing. Now, for some reason, be it teenage hormones, devil himself, or some gang code I don't understand, Jamon felt that the killing of Kendrick wasn't enough. Rather, he and his gang went to conduct a drive-by shooting of Kendrick's home. This nonsensical act of violence got Jamon and his crew of shooters charged with homicide and locked up, to the surprise of no one, because gangs usually follow the law of an eye for an eye. Kendrick's crew felt they had to get revenge and planned to take out Jamon's twin brother, Jason. However, that plan failed as the bullet meant for Jason ended up inside Tynesha Hammond's. Let's back up a little. Tynesha Hammond was born on October 20th, 1998, and grew up with her cousins in Bloomfield, Georgia, under the love and care of her grandma and aunt, Bridget Flowers. However, when Bridget got shot, Jason and Jamon moved in with Tynesha, and they grew up together. Tynesha Hammond has been exposed to death and violence all her life. It was the lived experience of everyone in the Bloomfield neighborhood, which is why everyone seemed to be thriving despite the violence around them. Still, despite how close the violence had gotten to her, she never expected she would find death dressed as a victim of a beef she had no business with. On the day she lost her life, December 23rd, Tynesha was hanging out with her friends and Jason, having fun, talking, and live streaming on Facebook, sharing her life with her followers just like any Gen Z kid would, when the drive-by shooting happened. Jason was the intended target, yet she ended up an unintended victim. Tynesha was in the driver's seat when some unknown gunman came to her, fired shots into the driver's seat, and left her for dead. Her cousin and her friends could do nothing but scream and frantically try to call 911 as Tynesha slowly bled out in front of them. By the time the ambulance came, Tynesha had passed on.
She was pronounced here behind us here at 8:50.
Thousands of people watched her death, which sparked a national conversation about gun violence, especially in the Bloomfield neighborhood. That year, 39 people lost their lives to homicide, not including Tynesha. Jason informed the police that he believed it was Kendrick's gang that did the shooting. Jason was fully aware that it was him that the shooters were trying to kill, and that it was Kendrick's crew who targeted him and his family. Unfortunately, there was no hard evidence for this. It was all circumstantial at best, which is why no one was ever charged for Tynesha's murder. But to further prove that Kendrick's crew made the kill, shortly after Tynesha died, another drive-by shooting occurred at her mother's house. Even though no one was hurt, they have lived in absolute fear ever since. As a result, the family refused to speak with the police or the media. They were terrified for their lives. Making the wrong move could result in another needless homicide occurring in a matter of seconds with these gangs of vicious individuals.
They also declined to speak on camera, saying they were fearful for their own safety since the killer could still be on the loose.
It was a feeling echoed by many parents on the
street who felt by speaking out they could put themselves or their families in danger.
Nobody desires to die. Tynesha was a beloved daughter, sister, and friend. She was full of life and loved to share her adventures with others. Her family and friends describe her as a kind and caring person who always puts others first. Tynesha's mother converted Tynesha's Facebook to a memorial page. In one of her posts, she writes, "3 years ago, I got the worst news a mother could receive. You were gone. My best friend, my oldest child, was gone. It seems like it was yesterday, and I have to ask God why so many times. You don't suppose to do that. He needed you more, I guess. Rest on, baby girl." Apart from dealing with the senseless tragedy, the family had to try and deal with taking the video of her down from the internet. After many appeals, YouTube and Facebook took it down from their servers. A website known as Fly Height, which profits from graphic videos, kept it up on their website despite so many pleas from the family. For Tynesha's family, it was all about protecting her son from ever seeing the video.
You know, once it's on the internet, it's out there. But I'm like, much damage control as y'all could do, please, please take it down. Amari's not gonna be a baby forever. Her son's gonna have a social media one day. I would hate for him to come across that video.
Unfortunately, the thing about the internet is that once a piece of media is out there, it is impossible to take it back. Thus, despite the video being taken down, many people had already downloaded it several times over the internet. Tynesha's case is incredibly tragic, and it's hard to pin the blame on one person. Who is to blame? Her aunt, Bridget? Her aunt's husband, Jacinto? Her cousins and their gang affiliations? Police, or the Bloomfield neighborhood for fostering so much violence? This case is one of several seemingly unrelated actions affecting one another and leading several people down a destructive path. Fortunately, despite the horrible events, Tynesha's son lives and is raised in a home with a loving grandmother. She shared this video of his first day at school.
My baby!
Seeing this video, at least we know that he is surrounded by love, and part of Tynesha's beautiful heart lives on in him, and at least that's enough. We will never forget Tynesha Hammond. Click on the videos you see on your screen for another story just as intriguing as this.